Hi, my name is Andaleeb Wajid. I've written several novels. To name them quickly, it's Kite Strings, Blinkers Off, My Brother's Wedding, More Than Just Biryani, and a trilogy which is called the Tamanna Trilogy. The first book of the trilogy, No Time for Goodbyes, was published in April. The second book of the trilogy, Back in Time, was launched today here at BLF. It's a story of a young girl, Tamanna, who goes back into 1982 to a time when her mother is a teenager, and she sees life as it was led back in the 80s, and she falls in love with a boy there. As you can see, she's going on the bike with a boy. So the story revolves around how they will manage to make this work against, the very setup which is against them. So yeah, so this is Back in Time. The third book of the series is coming out in December, and that is called Time Will Tell. Oh yes, this is a time travel book. So she goes back into time with the help of a photograph that she finds at home. So the photograph is a time traveling device as such, the machine, it's not exactly a time machine. So she gets sucked into the past to a time when the photo was taken. And so obviously at that time her mother is a year younger than her. So when Tamanna is 16, her mother is 15, and she falls in love with her mother's neighbor Manoj, who actually has no, she doesn't know who he is in present time because she's never seen him, she's never met him. So there's a whole mystery about that, and yeah, so that's that's the whole story. It's been published by Bloomsbury, India, because I felt that that of course would be interesting from 1982. But I think a girl from present age going back into time in 1982 would definitely see things differently. So, their expectations of life. So, we're so used to these things like, cell phones and internet and all that. To go back to a time when none of that existed, at least, to her knowledge. So, it's very interesting to put someone in that situation and see how they manage it. So, it was a lot of fun actually. So, in a way, I've written this for young adults of today who probably, the moment their parents start talking in my days, and then they just, shut off thinking, we don't want to hear about your days. I mean, it's happening with me, with my son. But so that way, it's an interesting way for them to learn about how our lives were back in the 80s. And I think for those who were born in the 80s, who were young in the 80s, it's just a kind of a nice rush of nostalgia. Definitely, the whole element of nostalgia. So my readers are split into young people who don't know what trunk booking is, to older people who are really enjoying that trip back into time. Yeah, so initially, of course, the two of them are not. They don't really acknowledge it because he is the only one. Manoj is the only one who knows that she has come from the from his future, because it's his grandfather who makes that camera, from which these photos are taken. So initially they kind of fight the whole attraction thing, but towards the end of book 1, both of them realize that they have something going on between them. So, and book 2, she's still in the past, and she wants to take him back, take him back to her time. So how that plays out is something for the readers to see, to read actually. Book 3 is, I can't reveal much about book 3 without giving away what happens at the end of book 2. But book 3 is also a lot of fun. So I can't say. The other people would be, Tamanna's mother, who actually, when I started writing the book, I initially thought of it as a mother-daughter bonding thing, and that, when the romance kind of came in and it eclipsed everything else. So Tamanna's mother is an important character. Tamanna's grandmother, whom she calls Aji, is also very important. So because, Tamanna lands back into the past, but it's not like she's, landed in some strange place. She's come back to her mother's house because that's where the photo was taken. So she gets, she's staying basically with her grandmother and her mother and her aunts when they're kids. Yeah, so it's just that, Manoj's pen pal from Australia was supposed to come. So they kind of just make this up, that she is the pen pal from Australia. So that's why, they find that everything about her is a little different. Her clothes are different. the things that, she doesn't know much about things at present in Bangalore. So it's a view of old Bangalore, and so yeah, so that's the whole thing. So that's how she fits in, because she doesn't really fit in. So they know that she's different. So it's like accepted. I think at that time when people went to a restaurant, they actually spoke to each other, they talked to each other instead of texting other people, instead of taking pictures of their food to post on Instagram, or instead of checking in Facebook, look, I'm in this place. So I think it was more about the here and the now, as opposed to today, where we are here but we are also somewhere else all the time.